I have a huge fetish with productivity. Everyone who knows me knows that. And I have been on a journey to find the perfect keyboard for optimal productivity and optimal ergonomics. I have been through Das Keyboard Ultimate, ErgoDox, Microsoft Sculpt, and a bunch of other ones, yet they never really did it for me. But as a programmer, as a SaaS founder, I am happy to announce that I have finally found the perfect keyboard, the ultimate hacking keyboard. And in this video, I'm gonna show you all why I love this keyboard so much. So, I've been using this keyboard for more than a year now. I don't normally do reviews on this channel, but I've been wanting to do one for this keyboard in particular. I reached out to the Ultimate Hacking Keyboard team to let them know I was planning on doing this, and they immediately went, well, if you're gonna do a review, why don't we send you a couple of extra modules so you can include those as well. And a few days later, I received the package with the latest version of their keyboard, the palm wrist, and all the modules I didn't already own, which was super nice of them. However, I just want to make it clear that this does not influence how I feel about their product. Neither did they pay me anything to do this video. It is 100% on my own initiative. All right, let's dig into it. Why is this keyboard so great? The Ultimate Hacking Keyboard, or UKH60, is a mechanical, fully programmable and ergonomic keyboard. It uses the concept of layering, which allows the keyboard itself to be small and compact while still offering the full capabilities of an advanced keyboard. It's shipped with a software that you can use to set up and remap any key or any layer, and I gotta say, the level of customizability this keyboard offers is unlike anything I have ever seen. When I'm looking for a great keyboard, I basically rank it based on two metrics. Is it ergonomic? I spend a lot of time in front of my computer, and it is essential to me that the keyboard helps prevent shoulder pain and fatigue in my arms and my wrists and so on. Even if you don't feel any pain now, just take a moment to consider how your body will feel when you've been doing this for 10 or 20 years. Does it make me more productive? I want a keyboard that helps me speed things up. So some form of software or extensions where I can set up custom shortcuts and make my own commands is strictly necessary for me in order to approve a keyboard. The UKH60 fully covers these and beyond what I've seen any other keyboards do. When you purchase the UKH60, you have a few things to pick between. The most important ones are the layout of the keyboard and the switches the mechanical keyboard is using. I've tried a number of different mechanical keyboards and my favorite switches are brown and blue. They are the loudest, but by far the most comfortable and satisfying to use. I mean, would you just listen to this? As you can see, I'm using blank keys. While you can pick a layout and have the symbols printed on the keys, I prefer having them blank since, well, this is a fully programmable keyboard. I don't want to mentally fix myself on any keys doing any specific things. When you get the keyboard, you can choose to use it as a regular keyboard like this, but you can also split it like this, which I definitely prefer. You can choose if you also want to purchase the palm rest, which I would definitely recommend. It is a beautiful wooden palm rest, and the ergonomic benefits heavily relies on this one. I prefer having the keyboard split with the palm rest and then tended towards the center. This makes the position of my shoulders and arms align perfectly. And again, I'm super impressed with the quality of the hardware here. The actual frame is solid and the palm rest is heavy, and it actually adds to the weight of the keyboard so it won't be sliding around and get all annoying on the table like that. You get a lot of customizability out of the box here. These small clip-on feet can be attached to the keyboard in a number of different ways, so you can have the keyboard tilt towards you, away from you, or incline towards the center, how I prefer it right here. Alright, here's where it gets super cool. In addition to the regular keyboard, you can also buy these modules that you can mount on each side. They extend the functionality of the keyboard and they add some super useful features, both for productivity and ergonomics. So, the first one we have here is the key cluster. It goes on the left side of the keyboard and it basically provides 3 extra keys, 2 small buttons and a small trackball. This is super handy. I use the trackball to scroll and I've added keys like Enter, Backspace and Delete here. These are keys that I'd otherwise have to reach out for a bit, so it just saves a tiny amount of time here every time I use them. For the right side, you can pick between 3 different modules. There's the trackball module, which comes with a larger trackball and 2 buttons. It's a perfect mouse substitute. It's easy to use and you can get very precise mouse movement. I love this module because it basically enables me to ditch the mouse entirely. My hands are always on the keyboard, literally. And you'd be surprised how much wear and tear on your shoulder you get from that trip between the mouse and the keyboard many times each day. So this is perfect both for productivity and ergonomics. We also have the track point module. It's similar to the trackball module, but instead of a trackball, you get this little joystick. Maybe you've owned a laptop once that had this little knob in the middle of the keyboard where you could control the mouse. It's kind of like that, though this one is much more refined. A huge plus with this one, as opposed to the trackball module, is that you can move the mouse around with way less thumb movement. On the other hand, it's a little harder to get precision right, at least in the beginning. Finally, we have this touchpad module. This is very similar to the touchpad you get on a laptop. This one doesn't feature any buttons. However, you can still emulate a click simply by tapping on the pad. The touchpad is my least favorite of these modules, but this is pretty much down to preference. I also don't really prefer using touchpad on laptops, and I find myself connecting a regular mouse whenever I have the chance. But if you're into touchpads, this module is for you. The greatest takeaway from all these modules is that it speeds up a lot of tasks on the computer, and most importantly, it spares you from that awful keyboard to mouse movement and back, which really, it has a term. It's called a mouse shoulder, and it's a very common and painful condition among people who work late hours in front of a computer. Ditch the mouse. I cannot recommend that enough. All right, let's take a look at how we can customize and program this keyboard, and I'll show you some super cool things I've made that really helps me out with productivity. So the UHK Agent is a software you download on your computer, which enables you to fully customize, reconfigure and program the entire keyboard and all the modules you have mounted. These settings are actually persisted onto the keyboard itself, so removing the software and installing it again, or for that matter, using the keyboard on another device, doesn't change anything. All the configurations follow the keyboard. So out here in the left menu, you can see we have these key maps. The keyboard ships with a bunch of default ones, and we can customize each one however we want, or we can create a totally new one from scratch. So this is the main key map I use with Linux. And as we can see here, all keys are laid out, and if we click it, we can easily remap a key to whatever we like. We can do the same with any of the buttons on any of the modules. The keyboard comes with 4 different layers that we can toggle between. For instance, you can see here that the arrow keys are placed right here on the mod layer. So in order for me to use the arrows, all I have to do is hold down the mod key and then click the arrow buttons here. I remember in the beginning this did take a few days to get fully accustomed to, but it wasn't really a big deal and it becomes very natural after a little while. Now, this FN layer has been my go-to for creating custom keyboard functionality and macros. First of all, you can see how I've mapped a lot of emojis here. I use emojis a lot, and believe it or not, simply putting the most frequently used ones right here is buying me minutes, if not hours a day. Of course, in the beginning I had to remember which emojis I put where, since the keyboard itself doesn't show, but after a little while it just becomes second nature. Just like you probably don't have to think before hitting the J key on your keyboard. I don't really think about it before adding a cry laugh emoji at the end of a sentence anymore. And the way to do this is super easy. I simply create a macro and then I add this little sequence of characters which on Ubuntu would result in a cry laugh emoji. And another similar use case. I'm from Denmark, so I speak Danish with a lot of the people I talk to. And in Denmark we have these special characters that are not found on the English keyboard. I use the English keyboard normally because as a programmer, the standard US layout is just much better suited than the Danish one. And instead of having to swap between 2 different keyboard languages, I simply just added these few Danish characters here in the very same way I added the emojis. I know, changing the keyboard language, which you can also set a shortcut for on most operating systems, or picking an emoji which both macOS and Windows has shortcuts for as well, may not seem like a big deal. However, if you do this many times a day, you can seriously save time by making this tiny process even faster. So last up, let me show you a more complex macro I created for video editing. I have a custom key map for Premiere Pro alone, and I set up a bunch of different macros to speed up a lot of repetitive tasks. For instance, creating a J-cut in Adobe Premiere. Normally, this is actually something that takes anywhere between 10 and 30 seconds each time. You have to first remove the gap, then move the clips together, then drag one slightly to the right, have the other clip follow, add audio crossover to avoid clipping. Try to sit and do this all day to edit the video. Super annoying. Instead, I created a macro for it. This one is a little more complex, but gets the job done perfectly. Now, I can do this in 2 seconds. Boom. And so I have macros lined up for a bunch of things, enabling me to edit videos 10 times faster. All because of the ultimate hacking keyboard. I also have a bunch of commonly used commands for Git, Node.js, and for a lot of other things I tend to type over and over. Oh, and here's the best part. The software, the UHK agent, is open source. It's all written in TypeScript using an Electron wrapper, and you can literally pull the entire repository, add changes to the source code, and build your own fork of the software. So if you're a programmer and the software itself for some reason doesn't do exactly what you want, well, you can always crack it open and just program it yourself. And of course, they have a lot of open issues and PRs are welcome. So if you fix an issue other people might benefit from, be a gentleman and create a PR for it. So all in all, the UHK60 is one of the best purchases I ever made for better ergonomics and productivity. It's definitely not the cheapest keyboard on the market, but it's worth every single penny. My shoulders stopped hurting, my wrists stopped hurting, I stopped having fatigue in my arms after many hours of work. I even had this weird crunching and popping in my shoulders, which I thought was unrelated, and it also completely went away after switching to the UHK60. And as you've just seen, I can adjust this keyboard to anything from saving a bit of time by moving certain keys closer to the center, to creating advanced workflows which just saves me a lot of time. Besides, it's a ton of fun. And the keyboard itself, it looks great, not some kind of weird curvy plastic junk as some other ergonomic keyboards tend to look. No, it is aesthetically pleasing to look at, and I'm sure it will fit very well with your setup. Check out the description below. I added the link to the Ultimate Hacking Keyboard's own website where you can pick up this keyboard today. Also, if you're like me, having this weird fetish with productivity, you want to watch this video next. I'm breaking down 5 things I do to keep my productivity super high, and they're all things you can start doing today as well. Remember to like and subscribe if you like this video. I will see you soon.